One of the most anticipated reviews of this year is the one of the all-new Mazda 3. And here on Autogefühl, your number one resource for in-depth car reviews and your number one community to discuss cars, with Thomas, we're going to examine exterior, interior, and today the driving experience. And we will also compare the sedan for you. Let's join us here in Full HD, full screen and full length. Let's go. One main design scheme of the Mazda 3 is it shows more sportiness. Will it also hold this promise in driving? We'll find out later, but you can clearly see this front grille with a shiny black structure and is actually very large. It's not only featuring in the sports version, this is also the same case for the base version. So they also try to eliminate the, this trim, that trim, this trim, that trim, and it's always like this, and I think that's also a good way to make it easier for the customer. You can see those headlamps, they always come now with LED, optional matrix LED, and they have this 3D form that you can really have this gap in there to make it even more dramatic. I really wonder how it is for crash safety for that, but well, it has been tested, and so far they didn't have any problems for that. And also this front hood is being cut out. You can very well see it, especially in this white car. Of course, here with this nice evening light accentuations in the light there. Such a beautiful light right here. Also great place to film the cars here close to Lisbon and, between Lisbon and Sintra, where we're pretty often to review new cars. What do you think about the design here in the front? It's a two-dimensional logo because they hide the sensors here behind that logo. For example, for the ACC and the autonomous emergency brake, and there's also the front view camera you can get optionally. With 4 meters 45, 14 foot 6 or 175 inches, this new Mazda 3 is actually not longer than the previous generation. Well, here the design is very roundish at the doors. Those ones are the big 18-inch rims to get a sporty style. Also in the contrast then to the white. And you can see also very round here. And then this one, the massive C-pillar. Yes, it will block the view from the interior. I will tell you more about that later when we drive the car. And I'll also tell you why you have to get the blind spot monitor if you buy this vehicle. But here also design-wise, this is then very strong, So it's always the question, design versus engineering. They are also sometimes fighting inside the manufacturing process for sure. So this is really unique then. And also with this very flat window line, a dramatic design. They really kept this, dramatic approach from the concept that was earlier to the series production model. What do you think? I think they have a very beautiful sporty design here in the rear, especially also with the LED light right there in this evening mood. To open the hatch, by the way, the button is right here below the Mazda logo. We'll show you that right soon. What's all in the interior. First of all, one technology detail. They have used an all-new chassis promising more stiffness. Of course, we'll find out in the driving part what that one will deliver. And they use real exhaust pipes also here in the lower end. And the last design detail is here, especially contrasting to the white car. This whole black lower part, again with a shiny glossy part. Already on the exterior, you see a lot of quality work. And as a comparison, first of all, a red vehicle. This is also very attractive color. And I want to tell you what is from standard equipment and what is not. Because here, for example, we see the car with 16-inch rims. I think it still fits the car. Yes, of course, the 18-inch rims look more impressive. 17 is not available. It's either 16 or 18. And you can see those headlamps there. The headlamp unit are LED, but the LED daytime running light is not LED in the standard version. That is an option we've seen with the white car. Well, this is basically an exception for the vehicle because so many other things are from standard equipment. For example, the ACC, the adaptive cruise control, is standard equipment. The front assist, so the autonomous emergency brake, is standard equipment. Even the blind spot monitor is from standard equipment, at least for the German market. It will also be for some other markets. You have to check it individually on your market, what is standard equipment. But for most vehicles, the assistance systems will be standard there. You can also upgrade them just a little bit then. But the blind spot monitor is really necessary for that vehicle because of this very strong C-pillar. And even on the inside, for example, there will be the head-up display coming up and also the big infotainment screen. Most of the stuff really is standard equipment, and for example in Germany there's a starting price of 23,000 euros. It's a little bit more expensive than the predecessor, but when you then think about what you get from standard equipment here, this is really a very attractive price-performance ratio. And another perspective at the red vehicle here from the rear. And again, if you don't have the design package, difference is that the LED daytime running lights do not form those beautiful rings. It's just a standard light then. That's a pity, but again, as I said, most of the other stuff is standard equipment. Interesting also that here, the lower part, that looks all the same. You've maybe seen the side bumpers are a little bit different, but again, my standard statement is that you basically get a car that looks pretty much the same, even if it didn't go for a sporty trim or something. And interesting is also that the sound for this naturally aspirated petrol engine is actually quite nice, I think. Let's listen to that. And now to the sedan, which has a little bit different front grille because it had rather this comp style in the hatch, and here it is more a horizontal layout with those different dots. So very interesting. It looks a little bit more elegant. The color here, by the way, is machine gray. With 4,66 m or 183 inches, the sedan is 20 centimeters longer than the hatch. And this new generation of the sedan is also 8 centimeters longer than the predecessor sedan, whereas the hatch remains same in length. So you'll have a little bit more room on the sedan here. This one here also with the bigger 18-inch rims and a rather classic shape here, classic sedan shape. Again, more the elegant approach. This one will be very relevant, for example, for the US customers because the sedan is, really their favorite vehicle there in this compact segment. I want to know from you, which one do you find more beautiful? The sedan or the hatch? Nice play of colors and reflections here now with the light. Well, the back of the sedan is not as sporty as the one of the hatch, also without the black contrast in the lower part, but those tail lamps are now more horizontally drawn, so it gets some more sportiness here in the new generation. As for the engines, this one here today is the Skyactiv-G, the naturally aspirated petrol engine, 122 horsepower, 2 liter of displacement. Well, it is also a mild hybrid system, 24 volt. Interesting, well, you cannot really feel that while driving, but will it have an effect on the consumption? We will find out later. And there's also a 1.8 liter diesel with 116 horsepower, all front-wheel drive, by the way, and there will also be the new Skyactiv-X, the 2-liter engine with 181 horsepower, then also optional with all-wheel drive. And that Skyactiv-X is really interesting can just tell you shortly about that, because the Skyactiv-X will be a mixture basically of petrol and diesel, because, well, it is a petrol engine with self-ignition. Let's see how that one plays out at a later stage. This one here also interesting with the base petrol engine, because this one will be bought quite a lot, since it is also way cheaper than the Skyactiv-X. I'll open the hood once more, because to give you some more info here on the engines, because the sedan will be somewhat limited in the engine choice in Europe. We will get it as a Skyactiv-X engine only, with a powerful one. And also important that for our friends in the US, in general, the all-new Mazda 3 generation will for you also be available with a 2.5 liter naturally aspirated engine, like we also know from a Mazda 6 or the Mazda CX-5. This is the new car key. Here we go. Open and close at the side. This one doesn't feel that good from a tactile feeling. However, the rest of the interior does. And you can be really excited about it, because here we got a soft touch at the inside of the doors, then some leatherette cover here at the inside right there, again some leatherette here, fabric right there. Then you can see also some, nicer finish now for the automatic window levers. Not too much space at the inside of the doors, however. And then also here the complete new interior. You can see a new steering wheel with a sporty style, like an MX-5. Also here, from the material finish, they even have clicking sound here at the steering wheel. And also a nice finish as for the materials. So some parts are really premium-like, I have to say. Here then also a soft leatherette cover, and the top here is also from Soft Touch. So that's also nicely done. Soon more details to those new instruments. Those will always be like this. First of all, to the seat. They have totally redesigned the seat form. Your pelvis stands more upright, therefore giving you more comfort. We'll soon also test it when we sit on it. And this one is the standard fabric seat. I have compared the animal skin seat yesterday, and I have to say this one is really more comfortable. Somehow it's more open, and you don't slide on it too much as for the material, and it gives you more climate comfort, stays cooler in summer and also warmer in winter. I can really recommend those here, very interesting. In the front you can also put the front part a little bit higher, but I don't recommend that as for the comfort. Just leave it in the lowest position. Maybe put here the seat a little bit higher as for that. That gives you a little bit more comfort. I think also very nicely done with the different fabric structures they've added right there. Well, and then you can see a first glimpse to the middle console, also with leatherette covers. So we don't find too much hard plastic. I think that's really a good step forward. Now let's get inside. You sit actually really low, so it feels like a sporty seating position. You can also put the seat in the lowest position right there. I'm 1.86 m or 6'1", and that leaves me still some headroom right there. This is a car here without a panoramic roof, so you can compare that. So also tall people are actually just fine here in the front. The steering wheel can be adjusted manual like this. It's a smooth process as well. But unmistakably, the car says this is a sports car, a sports compact car. Although it's just a base version. But, the position here and also the design on the exterior, the design on the interior, everything says I'm a sporty vehicle. And of course, we will be excited if this will also work while driving the vehicle. I usually again put the seat a little bit higher, also to change the angle of the seat a little bit. And as I said earlier, those fabric seats here make a more comfortable impression to me than the animal skin seats. I'm not sure if the seat form is also different, but that's just the first impression I get. Interior overview, again, a massive step forward in build quality. Soft touch at the top part here, then a leatherette cover. This new 8.8-inch screen is really interesting. It always comes with that one, and I found it so annoying if manufacturers do like 3 different sizes for screens. That's it. That's it. Really good decision. And the instruments, soon also a close-up to that, because this is also interesting. 7-inch screen on the inside, and then analog parts on the outside. And again, a perspective on the new steering wheel with very nice quality buttons. Again, also the tactile feeling when you press them. Same counts here for the climate unit, with a metal knurling around that. And still manual way, so you don't have to do anything in the infotainment screen. By the way, it's not with touch. They before had, when you could stand still, then you could touch. And then when you drive, you use, see, nothing is happening. And when you drive, you use the drive selector. Here, always the drive selector. And it's actually also too far away that you could, very comfortably touch it right there. And then there's one USB port here in the front where you can put your smartphone for the Apple CarPlay and Android Auto connection, which is also standard. Then put your smartphone right there. So you can see the Apple CarPlay connection, Android Auto is also available, and both standard. This is really cool again. And the Bose sound system is actually quite cool. So a nice surround sound for that compact vehicle. And let's see if I can listen to my Apple CarPlay music while using the GPS. Yes, that's possible. And you can see the GPS has also some nice visualizations for buildings and also for the sea, for example. So it's also a step forward in the software right there. There's a hotkey then for the main menu that looks like this. But the most things you will using is the CarPlay or Android Auto connection, then the GPS. You can also connect your phone via Bluetooth. That would also still be possible. And then there's also information menu with vehicle status or fuel efficiency monitor. I think they kept the software quite simple. It's easy and intuitive to use. And the head-up display is projected directly into the front screen, so with the current speed and the allowed speed, and even that is standard equipment, so really astonishing. Again, it might sometimes differ from market to market, but I talked to Mazda and they said that for the most markets they really put a lot of standard equipment. And I think that's also a very interesting solution for the customer that makes it easy to order a vehicle. And I also want to show you the rear view camera because there's a great resolution and has been upgraded massively. Also optionally here with the 360-degree view. And you can see also when I use the steering wheel, also changes and shows me where I'm actually going to. Well done. The instrument cluster you can see on the right and left side, all analog, and all chrome rings are also analog. And then when you turn on the ignition, you can see that the middle display is digital, and that you can then change, for example, a big digital speed, or assistant system info, or then this digital analog gauge, let's call it that way, so you're a little bit more flexible as for that, or the consumption meter. 6-speed manual gearbox, really cool to put in the gears. It's a short shifting lever, also sporty and crisp. Well done. For this petrol engine, also automatic gearbox available, and cylinder deactivation and mild hybrid system. Let's see how that one plays out for the consumption. Then I talked about they kept it simple and clean here also with the hotkeys. Nice clicking sound, GPS hotkey, music hotkey, main menu hotkey, and going back hotkey, and pressing and turning. Very simple to use this infotainment screen also while driving. I think that is, really well done. One of the easiest systems to use. And then, because it's so easy to use, I can also then be okay with not having a touchscreen because everything is very fast and intuitive. And also a metal nerd key here for the sound. Just press it once for muting it. Electric handbrake. And there's this armrest. You can slide it open like this to access another secondary USB port and a 12-volt power supply. And then you can fold it open. Well, here in the shake test, it is better attached than before. You can see the middle console here shakes just a little bit, but they have massively improved that here also. So overall, well, maybe just here the shiny black area, you can see it's prone to scratches. That's probably the least favorite part of the interior to me, but everything else I'm really, really satisfied with. Some of you guys wanted to see the glove box. By the way, from the top part, it is dampened. You can see here, when I do it like this, But when I do it like this from the low part, it's not dampened. So the damper is just in the very high part, but I think, that's fine. And some reasonable space also inside the glove box cabin. So I said there's not so much room for bigger bottles here. It is not, but let me show you one practical trick here. If you bend that a little bit just, it holds it tight, that works. Of course, you shouldn't exaggerate it that the plastic doesn't break, but like this, I think it's still okay. And, what do you think? Just a practical tip here on Autogefühl. One of the things not so well done, that sound then from the inside of the doors when you open them here, especially at the rear. However, other things are very well done. For example, also soft touch here at the inside of the doors in the rear. We hardly see that with cars nowadays. Even in premium mid-size cars, this is sometimes not the case. So well done as for this respect. Well, then, when I have the driver's seat to my seating position, it does somehow still fit, but I hit my knees here at the front seat. In this case, it's soft at the back, so it's better than when we would have a hard cover. But again, the seating position in the rear is a little bit cramped. You have to live with that also due to the design. Headroom does exactly fit for me. Anything who is taller than me, that won't fit in anymore. So it's somehow okay, but the rear compartment here is surely not the biggest strength of this very vehicle. However, here again also I feel that I have a little bit more room with the fabric seats in the rear then. Isofix at the outside parts each, and we can already flip the seats from here. The mechanism as you put it down there is not that easy. And there you can see it. Of course, we'll soon take a look at this trunk. And we also have some cup holders right there. And anything in that. In this vehicle, there's also no rear climatization or something. But I think you can basically live with it. This is mainly a vehicle you drive in the front seats. Now to the hatch. Again, the button below here. We also put a suitcase in there as a sample that you can see what fits in. Well, those hatches have the problem that they have a high loading sill. It goes down then. Below there's the sound equipment, for example, mounted right there. And the length here, you can see, is some 85 centimeters. It's actually quite okay. And the width is just about a meter. The limiting factor is, due to the design, the height. And this is here at 45 centimeters. Well, you see the trunk goes quite deep down. That is then basically making up a little bit for the height you lose due to the design here with the flat windows. So overall height is okay. You just have to put things deep down right there. And then you can see you can also flip the seats in a 2/3, 1/3 split. And well, the front driver seat is in a position where also a tall driver could still sit. And that would be then to the front seat, about 1.60 meters. You cannot push the co-driver seat all the way flat, even though when it's a manual version. I think also flip the other part of the seats. You can also reach over here, even though it's not the most handy solution. Here we go. And that's then the maximum loading setup you have. The interior of the sedan is of course not really different. It's just that here there's also a bright trim. I really like this styling. You have a bright leather red here at the inside of the doors. Also at the top dashboard, left and right. Really looks very cool and brings some more light in the interior. Also there is a bright ceiling. Really love that styling, and we've seen it recently also with the Toyota Corolla, where they also had the sedan in the bright styling. I'll soon also open that small roof right there. And the seats also in the bright style, leather red on the outside, some real animal skin parts on the inside. In the future, I hope they will also offer it with a high-grade full leather red. At the moment, it's not the case, so it looks cool. Of course, there are the other disadvantages for that. But again, the styling idea is actually quite nice, but the same, steering wheel and also instruments. So this one will be just the same hatch and sedan. Also the front seating position, I can also take a look at that, but I expect nothing different. The only, it's totally the same. But interesting is we have the roof here, the retractable roof, and then you have less headroom. You have to be aware of that. Then you can open it manually here with a shade like this, and then you have got this small roof. You can also open it in two ways, just a half opening and then all the way right there. But again, it's quite nice to have, but it's definitely not a must-have. This one is, by the way, also the electric seat setup with an electric lumbar support right there. Now I'm putting it all the way back. And here also for front and back, and also the angle of the back part of the seat, all electric right there, if you want so. And this one here is the automatic shifting lever, if you have the petrol engine with the automatic gearbox. And then you also have an additional lever here, even with clicking sound, for the sport mode, that the RPMs are turned up higher than the shifting up is later than the shifting down is earlier when you are in that sport mode. Now let's get in the rear. This will be very exciting. Is there any difference to the hatch? And you see that the legroom is actually not really different. Headroom is also very close, so it's, because of that roof, there's a lower area here, and then it goes up in the rear part again, and I can put my hand over my head, but in this case again, doesn't make too much of a difference if you have the hatch or the sedan. As for the rear legroom, both, and for the headroom, I even felt that the headroom was a little bit better in the hatch. So yeah, really interesting to see that. You cannot flip the seats from here. You have to unlock them from the trunk. And in the trunk, we will also see why there's not much more legroom here. We can see that the additional length of the sedan went all the way into the trunk. So whereas we had 85 centimeters in trunk length with a hatch, we have 1 meters 05 in trunk length with the sedan. And if you flip down the seats, you can even have a length of 1 meters 85. The liter difference is 360 liters with the hatch trunk, and here 440 liters with the sedan trunk. So that's the biggest advantage then of the sedan. You cannot load in and out things that easily here. Same thing, but then again it is way longer and therefore also has more liter volume. And now to Thomas's driving lounge with the all-new Mazda 3. That's what you have all been waiting for, and of course also myself. So this new chassis promises us more stiffness, also new suspension. Well, there has been some, criticism about the suspension in advance. Might it be a downgrade, but how does it feel? We'll clear that right now. And this engine here for today is the 2-liter petrol engine, 22 horsepower. Let's see about that. Yes, they still use big displacement figures, low horsepower figures. I like that. No turbo, so you have to push a little bit harder, but you can also drive it calm and also, let's say, linear without this very exponential acceleration then of a turbo. And to me, higher displacement figure with lower horsepower also promises more durability. So, steering setup here, you can see it's really direct, and we are on one of my favorite routes to test vehicles here close to Sintra in Portugal. Also best greetings to our Portuguese friends. And this is really nice to get in all those corners right here. You're already here, there's an improved noise insulation in that vehicle, and also we cannot hear so much of the engine. Shifting, very, very short gear stick, and also was another Mazda 3, different color. Short ways to shift here, very crisp, at the same time very smooth to put it in. So I like automatic gearbox, but this manual gearbox here is really awesome. So they've done a great job with this automatic gearbox right there. And actually, driving in 3rd or 4th gear now, and I don't have to force the issue. So the engine has enough power also. I'm keeping it always, around just below 3000 RPM, that I have good reaction from the car. You see, I don't have to steer. Whoa, nice. Sweet pickup right there. So, look at the steering angle here, the ratio. Now in the third gear, pushing up. Yeah, it's not so much happening, but still it's fun to drive that vehicle. You can expect big performance from that engine choice. You can have other engines for that later. Also the Skyactiv-X engine, which will also be offered with all-wheel drive then. That one will give you more performance. However, for most purposes, this engine will also be here, for example. Third gear, uphill, nothing is happening, have to go back to second gear, then we can hammer it. And then we can also have some fun. And interestingly, I mean, it's a compact vehicle, it's not a hot hatch yet. Rather with a base suspension, with the base engine petrol, but it feels already so sporty. It's a little bit like an MX-5. Not at that low and extreme, of course, but you really feel that, you know? So you sit very low, the seating position is more comfortable than in the predecessor. At the same time, you also feel somewhat sporty. You have this dark interior where you feel a little bit caged in, so it almost feels like a sports car. That's really astonishing. The question is, of course, do you want that? We can clearly say, if you want a sporty compact vehicle, then the all-new Mazda 3 is the right one for you. If you want one with a lot of space on, you know, where you're seating and space to move around and long-term comfort, motorway and so on, then it's maybe not the thing they have been specializing on with this generation here. So definitely a focus on the sportiness of the vehicle. But due to this new seating setup and the better noise insulation and so on, they've also increased the comfort. So it's not that it would be less comfortable than the previous generation in that respect. Really great to drive, so the fun in driving is something they've really been working on, and it's really interesting, you know. Recently had it also with the Toyota Corolla that they went, let's say, in a sporty way. We'll turn around right here because the route is so nice. And then some of the European manufacturers, especially then also the French one, they're focusing again on the comfort. So for, you know, a couple of years or decades, all the European manufacturers, they were going like sportiness, sportiness, sportiness. And the Japanese manufacturers were all like comfort, comfort, comfort. And now it seems to be like flipping the switch. The European want to be more comfortable and the Japanese want to be more sporty. And obviously they've achieved that. You can also in the slalom see there's this, you know, not a special sport suspension. It's leaning a little bit then, but it's good actually. So I like the new suspension. I don't feel that it would be any less comfortable than the previous one. On the contrary, I think it's a better one than in the previous generation. That's what I feel at least. And the steering ratio here, you get a very natural feeling from the car. So it is light to steer, yes, but at the same time it gives me, you know, a precise feeling of what I'm doing. And there is no dead zone from the steering wheel. So indeed, this is the compact vehicle that reminds me most of driving a Mazda MX-5. Yeah, it's the same brand and they share some values, for example, but indeed they mastered that quite well. It's front-wheel drive only here so far. Again, as I said, there will be all-wheel drive available later on, but you don't feel that it would be negative. There's not much understeering or something. I mean, I don't have too much power on the front wheels here anyway. Again, when going uphill, then it struggles a little bit with this engine. If that's important for you, need more power, then you have to go for a bigger engine later on, or maybe also for a diesel. But again, if you want to keep it, you know, a little bit more money saving as well, so when going base engine or something here, then it's still okay to have that one. So I think a lot of different disciplines they mastered here very well with the all-new Mazda 3. What do you think? And now to motorway driving the new Mazda 3. This is also particularly interesting because so many people will do that. And here it's about, you know, acceleration, overtaking, it's about assistance systems, and it's about noise insulation. Let me start with the last point. So, it's for example a louder car next to us, and definitely if you compare it to the predecessor model, this one here is way more silent. So they have really significantly improved the noise insulation. I have already experienced that with the prototype vehicle we've been driving last year, and they also transport that over here into the final series production model I'm glad they did that. So, and together with this whole more refined feeling from the interior, we talked about it in the interior part, this really gives you, I would say, almost a premium feeling of driving this vehicle. Some smelly parts, you feel or have the scent that the car is new. I think they should try to reduce that a little bit. But everything you touch and feel and see is really good. Also, when you control the car while driving, all the buttons, for example, here for the cruise control, I've set it at the moment. The autonomous emergency brake is from standard equipment. So now uphill, this petrol engine here, actually, it has enough power, no problem. Of course, it wants some RPM with only having 122 horsepower. So no wonder it needs a little bit of punch. But if you're in, rather slow running traffic, it's not such a problem. I'll soon also make an acceleration test. It is also stable here at higher speeds. So it makes a very sporty and fun impression also here when you're trying to initiate overtaking maneuvers. The ACC, the cruise control here, depending on the distance you set, you maybe also seen that the transitions could sometimes be a little bit better. Maybe it's also easier when I change the distance a little bit, that I have a little bit more room in front of me. So we can also put it to 6th gear and then also see how low we can get the RPMs. So let's put it to a little bit higher speed and see. So here, for example, at 90 kilometers now, we are just below 2000 RPM. And that's actually quite okay. So the engine is also very well insulated from the cabin, so it keeps also silent as for this respect. Very important assistance system is the blind spot monitor, because you cannot see anything when looking to the rear there and over your shoulder to both sides. There it is, the yellow triangle. That's the blind spot monitor. And if I also set the turning indicator, I also get an acoustic warning. You cannot see what's next to you because of this dramatic design on the exterior, which is pretty cool when looking at it from the exterior. But when you see it here from the interior, it really blocks your view. So you need to have this blind spot monitor. Well, to the very rear, it's also somewhat limited because you just have the very small window there, but that's still okay, so you can see what's directly behind us. But then again, if I do this look or this look together, even with this big B pillar, I can see, and also like the dark windows behind, I can see nothing what's going on there. So I really have to rely on the blind spot monitor as for that. The manual gearbox here, by the way, is also really great. I already talked about it when we drove a little bit more agile, but here also on the motorway, very good impression. So very smooth to put the gears in, and also nice when they're a little bit shorter. Also good to test the car here in near close to Lisbon on those motorways, because they go up and down. So it's a little bit more challenging than just letting the car roll. As for the consumption, so we can be clearly below 6 liters on 100 kilometers. And that's more than 39 mpg US or more than 47 mpg UK. And this is somewhat comparable with the bigger hybrid engine in the Toyota Corolla recently. The smaller, the 1.8 hybrid, that one was lower in consumption. So, but that was also trimmed towards that. Of course, we're anxious to see how it plays out with the Skyactiv-X engine at some point. It's not available here yet for this test drive, but we will deliver that later. I also drove it in the prototype earlier, and we're really anxiously awaiting if that's possible to have both more performance and less consumption with this self-igniting petrol engine. It's a very special concept. But here, with the base petrol engine, you'll be also just fine. It is actually very suitable for this vehicle. And one of the key features here also of the all-new Mazda 3 is that even on the motorway, it still feels very sporty, because you have this low seating position. You feel somewhat caged in, especially here in this dark interior, and you don't feel it would be a big car, especially if you're a tall person. You feel somewhat a little bit cramped in here. That's the downside. The positive side is that you always feel very sporty in here. And I have to say, since they have totally reworked the seats, although it's somewhat, sporty, cramped, it's still more comfortable than the previous version. And for a compact segment vehicle, they have really increased the comfort. Wow, that's now too blinding. So the comfort is really good with those seats because they've changed the position of the pelvis and done a good job there to guarantee comfort even in a smaller vehicle. So, is it a good motorway vehicle? That's the question. Well, it would be a little bit more comfortable if it would be more in an open setup here, yes. But then again, since they have increased the comfort, they have increased the noise insulation, overall a more luxurious, premium feeling and a more silent feeling, I think you can very well live also with that vehicle on the motorway, and consumption so far is also fine. And now to our conclusion for today with the all-new Mazda 3. Well, from the exterior, clearly a very dramatic styling, sporty and in all trims. And I think that's a very interesting decision because sometimes, from a customer perspective, it's so complicated to pick the right trim for a vehicle, and then there are so many options. So I think it's good that they say, this is how our car looks, period. Very interesting decision for sure. Then, well, especially at the rear, the design is very spectacular. They kept it from the prototype. However, it also has some disadvantages than on the interior because the visibility to the side rear part is really very bad. You need to have the blind spot monitor to even out that a little bit to add then again to safety. Other than that, there are more assistance systems available, and they also improve, for example, also the pedestrian recognition of the autonomous emergency brake and so on. So also a step forward as for that. Not to forget to mention the ACC, which also worked overall pretty well. Then the quality of the interior. That has been a big improvement. It basically feels now like a premium vehicle. If you look at the details, the small buttons right there, everything feels really good. Soft plush materials used as well. So this is actually the biggest thing that has been improved on the interior. You can argue about the touchscreen, that it's not available anymore. Some say that's good, that adds again to safety. Some say, especially when standing still, I just want to use a touchscreen. Whatever, give it to me. And as for driving the all-new Mazda 3, yes, the chassis is stiffer, the suspension has been upgraded. It is definitely sportier than before. The seating position, however, with the new seats is actually quite nice. However, I can clearly see the focus on the sporty drive. You feel somehow caged in a little bit in the interior, and the seating position is very low. The steering is very crisp, also here with the manual gearbox, very crisp to shift. Actually, also with this naturally aspirated engine, it was really fun to drive it, although uphill, you do lack some power, you have to be aware of that. That will be different than, for example, with the bigger horsepower Skyactiv-X engine we'll test at a later stage. This here, the Skyactiv-G with 122 horsepower, scored a very good consumption when you kept it calm. So we were just below even 6 liters on 1 kilometers. That's actually lower than the official WLTP cycle it was predicted here. And that's more than 39 mpg US or more than 47 mpg in the UK. Overall, it was really fun to drive that vehicle. You just have to be aware of, if you expect that sporty ride, then it's exactly the right car for you. But if you expect more, let's say, long-term motorway comfort and so on, then it might not be the right focus. But clearly, they've taken a decision, and I think it's also good if they've taken one exact decision right there. So, the exterior, it did promise a sporty car, and the driving experience also delivered that. What do you think about the all-new Mazda 3? Let's discuss this car in the comments, and please also join us next time.